I'm really delighted to see so many of you for this first session today. It's designed to support you on your professional journey. And the format will be a panel discussion followed by the questions that you shared when you registered. And you can also leave us questions afterwards in the Q&A chat that you'll see in the toolbar at the bottom of your screens. Now, a very big thank you, very warm welcome to our panelists and UCD Alumni today. We have Brian, Kate and Kat joining us today and sharing their time and their experience with us. So just to introduce you a little bit, so you know the background, Brian did a BA in Economics and Politics, as well as a Master in Business. He's executive coach and helps business leaders and their teams to unlock and realize their potential. Brian brings over 20 years of business and leadership experience to his coaching work. Previously, Brian was an advisory partner and head of coaching at Eisner Amper Ireland, a specialist accounting and advisory firm. Brian was also senior consultant in the M&A strategy team at Deloitte in London. Earlier in his career, Brian completed an internship in the European Commission. He's joining us from Dublin today. Kate, very warm welcome to Kate. Hello. She's a talent acquisition lead at AIB, and she brings 15 years of comprehensive experience in full life cycle recruitment and human resources, having worked with organizations including AIB, Amazon Web Services, Dublin Business, Aer Lingus, and PwC. Her career began on a specialist track, and she has since advanced to management roles. Additionally, Kate gained international experience during her time working in Australia for several months. She's got a BA in Economics and Information Studies from UCD. And Kat, hello and very warm welcome to you. She started her career with a BSc in Psychology and Computer Science from UCD, and she grew her career overseas, making progress from a marketing associate position in Australia to becoming head of commercial at a FTSE 100 fintech, where her remit covered Asia Pacific, before moving to London to embark on a career as a strategy director in PwC, where she's joining us from today. Very warm welcome to all of you. And finally, thank you to Leona Berry, career and skills consultant from the UCD Careers Network. Hello, Leona. She'll be guiding us through the conversation now, and I'm really looking forward to that. Thank you very much, Leona, and I'll hand over to you.
Thanks very much, Brigitte. I hope everybody can hear me okay. And a warm welcome to everybody who has joined us today. And obviously a warm welcome to Brian, Kate and Catherine, who's also joined us today. I suppose just in relation to our first question, just in regards to, we might just delve right in relation to, if you could tell us a little bit about the role that you're currently in at the moment, and I suppose what you do on a day-to-day basis. I might start with Brian.
Okay, thanks Leona, and thanks Birgit as well, and thanks to everyone who's joining us today as well. I know everyone's got busy jobs, so it's great that so many people have joined us today. So as Birgit mentioned, I'm an executive coach, and really at the heart of what I do is helping clients realize their personal and professional potential. And I've always enjoyed working with people. I've always enjoyed seeing other people succeed, and whether it's working and helping someone develop maybe their leadership or communication skills, or maybe helping them improve their self-confidence, I find the type of work that I do very fulfilling and rewarding. And my coaching work is primarily focused on one-to-one coaching with experienced and emerging leaders in client-facing roles and their teams. And alongside one-to-one coaching, I also provide team coaching as well to senior management teams. And that's to really help improve team performance, collaboration, communication, and building trust within a team. And I'd say what I really enjoy is no 2 days are the same. You know, one day I might be doing a one-to-one coaching session in the morning. In the afternoon, it might be a team coaching session, or I might be speaking at an event like this. So I feel very fortunate to be able to combine my passion for coaching with my career. So, thank you.
Fantastic. Thanks very much, Brian. And just maybe moving on to Kate, actually, just to kind of, Kate's the next person that I can see there. Thanks very much, Brian. And Kate, over to you. Just a little bit about your current role and what you do on a day-to-day basis.
Absolutely. Thanks, Leona, and thanks for having me today. So currently I am the talent acquisition lead in AIB. For those of you who don't know what talent acquisition is, it's recruitment. So basically I am a lead of 6 recruiters that hire internally and externally for the bank. And it's one of the largest banks in Ireland. So there's 10,000 people within the bank. So we do all of the hiring for various different departments within the bank. Day to day, like Brian said, no one day is the same. It involves, I suppose, I'm a support for my recruiters that report into me, but also I work with various different stakeholders within the bank and externally as well. I have previously worked as a recruiter myself. I started in Amazon Web Services and I was there for 9 years. Started as a recruitment coordinator, moved into sourcing position, then into a recruiter position, and then into a manager position before I left. So it's a really rewarding role. I love, I suppose, helping people on their career journey and then bringing them right through the recruitment process, and then I suppose seeing them on a day-to-day basis in the office is great.
Thanks very much, Kate. And Catherine.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me. I'm absolutely delighted to be here and to be able to share my hopefully helpful experience. So I'm currently a strategy director at PwC, PwC being professional services firm, 175 years old, 26,000 employees, I think, in the UK alone. So an absolutely massive organization. And my role in here is almost to act a bit like an internal consultant, really. I work with all of the partners and directors and helping them understand how they take their products, which is their propositions, their services out into the market. So working with their clients. I also work with them from a strategic lens in terms of delivering insights about what's happening in the market. Obviously this week, looking a lot at the US tariffs and what impact that has on all our organizations and clients across the board. So really fascinating role, again, similar to my 2 colleagues here, that it's completely changeable day to day, which makes it really exciting, actually. And I mostly sit within the sales and marketing team. My background is in sales and marketing, and something I've done across a few different countries across the world. It's something I'm very passionate about. So yes, I'm delighted to be here, and thanks again for having me.
Thanks very much, Catherine. Thank you to all our panelists. A fantastic insight there and very clear for our audience to get an understanding of your current role and what you do on a day-to-day basis. I suppose just looking at, some key milestones. What are the most important, milestones within your career to date? And would you have any advice for mid-level professionals progressing to their next level of their career? Perhaps maybe, Kate, would you mind starting this conversation?
Sure. Yeah. So I suppose looking back at my own career, and when I joined Amazon, I suppose I didn't think that it was going to be a for life role. I was quite, I think, intimidated when I first started. It was a tech company that was growing really, really fast in Dublin. And it was the first time that I had worked in that particular industry. So I suppose the first major milestone for me was when I got my first promotion within Amazon Web Services. It just gave me the confidence to put myself forward and to, I suppose, grow my career in the right direction. Um, that role that I put myself forward for, I don't know if it was the exact role that I wanted, but I knew it was the right step for me. So I started as a sourcer on the recruitment team, and I was sourcing for candidates all across Europe and Asia. And it was a very proactive role, whereas I was more of a reactive person. I wanted to become a recruiter. So I suppose I put it on my manager's radar that this is the next step for me, and we work together to get there. And I suppose it was. I think I just kind of became the natural lead on my team then, and it just then became a natural progression for me. So my manager was an excellent role model. She really helped me through this, and I suppose she just gave me the confidence to put myself forward for this actual position. So Other milestones then throughout, I suppose I came back from maternity leave in Amazon, and I was kind of at a junction in my career where I was like, do I stay where I am comfortable, or do I put myself forward for a more senior position? So at that stage in time, I decided, yeah, look, this is a natural progression for me. So I actually went for a manager position. I separated away from my team that I had been with for 5 years previous. So it was a massive step, but it was an excellent opportunity. So I then grew a team within Amazon security. It was a brand new team in Europe. It was quite an established team in the US. So I was able to bring my knowledge from my previous role and help to grow this team. So it was a team of 1 initially, and after a year it was 40. So it was a massive growth projection. My manager at the time then went on maternity leave, so it gave me another opportunity to step up and to actually lead this team of 40 recruiters. So I think had I not just pushed myself to step out of my comfort zone, I probably would still be an individual contributor and wouldn't have grown my career in the way that it has expanded over the last few years.
Fantastic, Kate. Thanks very much for that very honest insight and a number of kind of crossroads that you came along as well, and you went for it. So thank you so much. It's very helpful for our audience to hear that journey. So I might move to Catherine. In relation to, I suppose, key milestones in your career, perhaps if you have any advice for mid-level professionals progressing to their next stage.
Yes, yeah, and a lot of similar themes I'm hearing as well, actually, just from my experience. So I think this kind of a very important part of your career where you go through university, you have to pick the subjects you enjoy and excel at, and you come out into a job generally, and this is obviously a very one-person view of the world. Then essentially what I found when I hit like an office environment is actually I'm not sure if my day-to-day is something that I'm thoroughly enjoying. So I think my first kind of big milestone was actually really building that self-awareness and expanding my network to actually understand what other opportunities now that I'm in the workplace are available to me, and doing that at a stage in my career where I'm able to take a bit more risk. So that was, I suppose, the first milestone for me. And on a personal level, I basically moved into a marketing function and had to retrain and requalified within the marketing space to do that. But it was something I loved. And I think what I'd encourage in terms of advice is absolutely sort of building that self-awareness, because I think we can often get caught up in getting a job, I enjoy the company and parts of the role, but really actually taking a step back to understand what's giving me energy in this role, what's potentially taking it away. And then you're really learning from that as to what your potential future sort of career path could look like. So I suppose that was my first milestone, falling into marketing. And then actually, similar to Kate, I kind of ended up coming back from mat leave and taking on quite a big role and pushing myself. And I sort of took on both a sales and marketing role. And at that stage, I'd moved across to Australia. So another kind of big milestone for me throughout my career has been moving country, to be honest, which I've done 3 times now. But I haven't used that as I haven't made that decision lightly in terms of I just want to go and live in Australia. It has been based on where do I think the opportunities lie in terms of my skill set and what I'm looking to do. So I would say, so in terms of advice, it is really knowing yourself and using this period of your life to sort of figure out what are you going to be happy doing for the next 10, 20, 30 odd years. Not that you can't pivot, of course. And then I suppose making sure you sort of challenge yourself to follow through on that.
Fantastic advice, Catherine. And thanks very much having that self-awareness and spending some time thinking of that plan. And thank you also for your insight there as well. And moving to Brian, in relation to those huge milestones within your career, or those major milestones in career, can you think of any yourself, or do you have any advice also for the audience?
Yeah, so I was kind of thinking about this, and I think for me, actually joining Deloitte in London was kind of a big change for me. So starting on a graduate training program was a big step. It was a new role and it was a new city, and I was joining a very large organization. So I was quite apprehensive about it, and there was a lot of change at once. But the reward was it gave me brilliant training. I worked with great colleagues, great clients, and I kind of got to experience living in a different country as well. And maybe the key lesson for me there is kind of all that change can be very daunting, but change is a good thing as well in our career. So as Kat said, moving countries, living in different countries as well, and having that variety only serves us, I think. The second point I'd say is a key milestone for me was when I was promoted to partner, and it was a major milestone for me. I spent 15 years in professional services, and it was a culmination of a lot of hard work, and it wasn't always easy, and I had to back myself and push myself at times, but I learned a huge amount of myself in the process. And maybe the insight that I'm learning, maybe that I'd share from that experience with people, is being promoted into a leadership position isn't always easy. And it can take time and effort, and really importantly, patience as well. And when I was invited to consider joining the partnership, I wasn't sure if I was ready, but I said yes and kind of backed myself to it. And maybe my encouragement to people is, if opportunity knocks on your door, say yes. If it feels right, say yes, and you can figure it out, afterwards as well. And then the third milestone for me, and this again echoes what some of Kat and Kate mentioned as well, is when I qualified as a coach. It was the first time, that was in 2017, but it was the first time in my career, in my professional life, that I'd really asked myself, what is it that I really want to do, and what am I really passionate about? And I always had this feeling at the back of my mind that I'd love something in the coaching profession. And it was a year-long course, and I was doing it on top of work, and it was quite hard. It was a big commitment, but I loved every minute of it. And I realized that I'd found my passion. And that in turn gave me an opportunity to become head of coaching at Eisner Amper. And then that in turn gave me the opportunity to set up my own business last year. So the inside of the learning, or what I'd like to share, is just taking time to reflect. Everyone's got busy careers and big lives, but taking time to reflect out on what is it that you really want to do, and maybe asking why you want to do it as well. And it doesn't have to be a dramatic leap as well. And it doesn't have to be something like handing in your notice. Change can be gradual, and you can move like turning a ship. You can move a few degrees at a time, but actually you could end up somewhere completely different and more fulfilling if you do that.
Thanks very much, Brian. Again, kind of echoing Catherine and Kate in relation to that self-awareness piece and spending time on that. I love that it can be small movements in relation to promoting yourself as well. And I think that brings us on, I suppose, to the next question in regards to if you have any advice on building credibility and influence in perhaps maybe an organization, and how to communicate those values and skills to senior leaders. Catherine, would you mind if I started with you?
No, absolutely. I love this question actually, because I was absolutely terrible at this at the beginning of my career. It's not a natural skill for me in terms of networking, generally self-promotion, all of that. Obviously quite a modest background, and sort of grow up thinking don't sort of promote yourself. So I ended up, I suppose, probably realizing how important these skills are only, sort of 10 years after entering the work environment. So I think for me, I'm very much proud of the actually quality of the work that I deliver, how responsive I am, and generally the sort of work shows for itself in terms of performance. And what I kind of ended up learning was, obviously, I can deliver this amazing piece of work, amazing projects, etc. But if no one's actually sort of engaged in terms of understanding them, and I haven't got buy-in, I haven't got sponsorship, then they're not really going as far as others. So I actually ended up sort of really challenging myself on this, and actually trying to almost see those soft skills in terms of influencing people, spending time, relationship management, basically, really kind of pinpointing who in the organization you think you need to sort of build that relationship with to unlock potential in terms of promotions within your career, but also getting your project approved and out into the market. So I spent quite a lot of time in that, almost flipping those skills from soft skills into seeing them as hard skills, as technical skills. So looking at quite a bit of training within the organization, getting myself some really good colleagues who would be honest with me and challenge me in this respect. And also, I guess, looking out into the organization to see who's doing this really well, and is there anything I can mimic there? So I quite like this question, because I would say it would have been my weakness sort of, early on in my career. And I've actually seen the potential, the change, I suppose, in terms of leaning in developing in this area. So absolutely, I think it is building those relationships, having that trusted support and that sponsorship, and letting your work shine for itself. But again, making sure you've got those channels to really deliver through that, and then that's what people see, right? And you that's how you build your personal brand. That's what I think I would say is important in this space.
Thanks, Catherine. Good advice on building network and your technical skills as well there as well. Fantastic. Thank you. Kate, I might move over to you in relation to that.
Yeah, and I think I'm similar enough to Catherine as well. It was definitely something that I should have done more in my early career, but it was, again, I just probably didn't have the confidence or maybe the knowledge to do it. But to be honest, I think it's just showcasing your expertise and your reliability. So like, share your insights in meetings. Don't be afraid to speak up, and to volunteer for the really high visible projects, things like that, or like even the small little projects, they still get noticed, and ensure that you deliver on your commitments. So if you do commit to something, make sure that you follow it through, and if it doesn't work out, that's fine. You always can learn from it and move on. But then also, I suppose, report your progress and show your value to your team. So, don't just do something and let it happen and then just shy away from it. Make sure and promote yourself, promote your brand, like Catherine had said, to make yourself stand out, because at the end of the day, you own your own career, and you need to make yourself stand out from the crowd, basically.
Fantastic. Thanks very much, Kate. Very much promote who you are and what you've done, and all your delivery as well, and deliver through. Fantastic. And over to Brian.
Yeah, thanks, and great points. And I'd echo the points Kat and Kate have made there. Yeah, I kind of three things maybe would stand out for me. One is endeavoring to do great work with the right attitude. So I think if thinking back on people I've worked with in the past, and if there's someone who kind of consistently says, I'll take care of that, or let me take care of that, I'll do this or that. And I think if that's done over and over again with the right attitude, that person gets noticed in an organization as well. So someone who takes ownership of things, looks for more responsibility. And maybe a personal insight, when I was earlier in my career, I was with Deloitte in London, and I was initially placed in technology consulting, and it wasn't exactly where I wanted to be. But I think I got stuck in, I did reasonably good work, and I built good relationships with the people I was working with. So when I asked to move into transfer into strategy consulting, they were very supportive of me. So I think it was perhaps because I showed up with a good attitude and I didn't kick up a fuss. And then, when the opportunity arose, I put in a request, and I did ask. The second thing I'd say, and just to echo the points that Kate and Kat have made, is about building your brand, and that's building your brand inside and outside of your team. So not just with your manager or your immediate colleagues, but wider across the organization. And I think there's different ways people can look to raise their profile, and it's one might be helping to organize, say, firm events, and it could be internal events or external events. It could be speaking at something as well. And just different ways that you can get different exposure. And again, when I was at Deloitte, I edited one of the newsletters, and it gave me great exposure to lots of people, because I did to interview different partners for each of the newsletters. When I became head of coaching at Ramper, I did a few podcasts. And again, it was just a way of building up a little bit of a brand around coaching. And the third point to make, is kind of seeking out mentors and sponsors. And I think, just to say, you don't have to figure everything out alone. And a mentor or sponsor doesn't necessarily have to be someone within your organization. It could be someone you previously worked with. It could be a family connection. And I know in my career, these mentors have had a huge impact in my career, and they've actually played a key role in pivotal moments and decisions throughout my career as well. So there'd be the three things: just doing great work with a great attitude, building your brand, and then seeking out mentors and sponsors.
Thanks very much. Some fantastic practical tips there, Brian, as well, for our audience. Thanks very much for sharing. And also, again, echoing what the panel is mentioning in relation to building your network, building those relationships, and promoting yourself as well, whenever any opportunity that you have. So fantastic. Thank you so much. Moving on to our next question in relation to perhaps maybe seeing some common roadblocks that you might have seen within your career. What are some of the biggest mistakes you see mid-level professionals make, or perhaps maybe a mistake that you may have made within your career? Kate, I might start with you, if that's okay.
Yeah, sure. This one, I think, for me, roadblocks kind of cropped up during when I first came back from Australia. I think I probably regret slightly coming back when I did. I should have stayed a little longer because I gained so like amazing experience while I was away. I worked in many HR roles and recruiting roles throughout my time that I was in Australia. And then when I came back, I suppose it was family reasons. It was just so far away. I wanted to be back closer to home. Um, it was at a time when the economic crash happened. And I needed to, I suppose, I think I just kind of jumped into a role without thinking about was it the right one for me. So I suppose to take a step back, like I think it's been mentioned before, but think about what you do actually want in your career. Don't just take a role for the sake of it. I know we all have to pay bills, but at the end of the day, you also have to be happy in your job. But also, I think speaking or listening to some of the others speaking there, one thing that I would highly recommend is looking for a mentor straight away. Have somebody who's, like Brian said, either externally or internally, to help you to grow your career and I suppose make those decisions, be it if you want to stay in that organization or not. And I suppose that is probably a regret for me because now I am a mentor of more junior people, and I love actually helping them decide what it is that they want in their career and how to grow it. So yeah, I suppose it was an unfortunate time for me to come back, and it was the economic climate and things like that. I ended up having to kind of go on contracts for quite a bit. But again, it was all experience. It's not something that I regret. It's probably maybe a slight mistake. But definitely I would encourage people to go for that mentor, because when I did eventually kind of settle, it was always something that I planned to do, but I just never really got to it. And now being a mentor, I see the benefits of it, and I would highly recommend it.
Thanks very much, Kate. And so it's all part of the journey, isn't it?
Absolutely.
And I think the advice on seeking a mentor or a role model, a careers role model, is fantastic advice. Again, echoed by Brian and Catherine there as well. I might move to Catherine in regards to maybe the biggest mistake you see mid-level professionals make, and perhaps maybe that you have made early on in your career, if you'd like to share.
Yeah, sure, of course. There's two things that came to mind when I was just thinking about this before. I have very similar answer to Kate in terms of getting stuck. I had an experience, and this is more recently than sort of mid-level career, but I had an experience where I was in a role for a very long time, and I was developed and promoted within the role every couple of years, but I had sort of lost touch with what actually I saw as important in terms of my progression for my career. And essentially I've been promised a board position within this company is out in Australia, and management board position in their Australian office. And year after year went by and I didn't get it. And I kind of started thinking, well, actually, it was a really good friend. Again, going back to the mentor point of view, but it was actually a colleague rather than someone who was massively experienced in my area. But actually talking to the colleague, I sort of realized, hold on a second, this is something that I want. You know, it needs to start becoming a non-negotiable. So I think he was able to kind of keep me honest with myself and go, okay, well, if we're not going to get that at this company, where are we going to get it? What do we need to do to actually be able to attain that milestone, I suppose? And so I actually ended up doing a course over the Christmas period that year, and then I got offered a non-exec director position at an Australian bank, which was massive milestone for me. And I don't think I would have, explored alternative ideas if I hadn't been pushed by a friend and had really kind of been challenged. So again, going back to not getting stuck and keeping an eye on your sort of high-level overview on what direction you're going in, and just making sure you're satisfied. The only other one I'd say as well, just one thing I think I realized quite early on in my career was that feedback, embracing feedback. I really struggled to embrace feedback for a very long time. It's a very hard thing to do, to ask for feedback and to actually take it constructively as well. But I think it's super important. And to Kate's point, now when I mentor people, I'm constantly pushing them to get feedback, because I think you can get stuck in your own bubble a bit, and it is the most valuable thing you can get is, you know, a constructive piece of feedback from someone you trust. It's actually going to help you then sort of find something to work on to get you to that next level. So I would say those are the two things. So not getting stuck, and then obviously asking for and openly responding to feedback.
Lovely, Catherine, thank you very much. And just in relation to not getting stuck, but I also think the advice on getting feedback, honest feedback from those that are working around you is fantastic advice for our audience today. Can I just ask Brigitte really quickly if there was a crisp noise on sound? Is sound okay?
I picked up a little bit of a crisp noise, but it's gone now.
It's gone, okay.
I had that as well, but I'm not quite sure. Maybe Catherine's mic might have caused it, because it was fine when Leona and Brian spoke just now.
Okay.
Okay, thanks, Brigitte. I don't know, Catherine, if you might have an ear. Perfect, that's lovely, Catherine. Thank you very much. I wasn't too sure if it was myself. Thank you so much. But we could hear you. We could hear you anyway, Catherine. Just to confirm. Thank you so much. And moving on to Brian. Likewise, similar question in relation to those biggest mistakes that you see mid-level professionals make, and perhaps maybe if you'd like to share a mistake that you perhaps happened to you early on in your career.
Great.
Thank you.
And at first I would say, and I know it sounds like a cliche, but I think trying to reframe mistakes as learning opportunities is a great way of, it can be very helpful in terms of growing and developing in our career. And I've learned that the hard way of maybe regretting things in the past, as opposed to, it's in hindsight now when I look back, actually some of what I thought were mistakes were actually really big development opportunities for me. So three of the kind of things, if we call them mistakes or growth opportunities for me, is there's probably times in everyone's career where we drift a little. And certainly for me, and when I say drift, it's more, I wasn't actively thinking about where I was heading. And so it goes back to this question I often ask people to reflect on, is what do I really want to do and why do I want to do it? And we can sometimes end up in a career path for the right reasons. And it could be family expectations, it could be job security, it could be perceived status, but it mightn't be what we really want to do. And I think for me, in my own case, it wasn't until I was in my mid-30s that I stopped and really asked myself these questions. And then that kind of led me towards thinking about and moving towards a career in coaching. So that was the first point. The second point I'd make is just this idea that, because people I know on the call are at the kind of mid-level of their career, are moving into management or senior management positions. And something that I think sometimes there might be a tendency that we chase promotions too quickly. And, you know, from a personal perspective, I did always put up my hand for promotion, but actually I think reflecting back and in hindsight, maybe sometimes I would have benefited from slowing down a little and mastering the skills at a particular stage of my career. I think sometimes when we go for promotion and we keep pushing for promotion, we might be promoted, but then we have to work very long hours and put in huge effort to prove ourselves. So I say, you know, if we're always focused on the next promotion, sometimes we forget to enjoy the journey. And the last point I'd make is, and it's kind of connected to that, is it's important to work hard, but not too hard as well. And there's more to life than work, and living life is much more important than any job, and success isn't about career achievement. I think finding that balance between work and life is different for everybody. And I think we all have to kind of figure it out for ourselves. And there was probably times when I probably put too much emphasis on work. And if we do that, we can't help but sacrifice other parts of our lives. So they've been my three pieces, you know, just consciously thinking about where you want to go with your career, not being too focused or overly focused on getting the next promotion, and then just having that nice balance and not working too hard.
Thanks very much, Brian. Very honest insight there as well. And again, the thread of that self-awareness piece is coming through as well. But I very much appreciate the work-life balance piece that you've added there as well. So thank you for your insight there. Just moving on to, I suppose, staying up to date within industry trends. How do you have any advice on how to stay up with industry trends or new technologies, including something that's very current at the moment, AI? And Brian, if you might need a glass of water, but is it all right if I
It's okay.
start with you,
Yeah,
Brian?
absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I'd say one thing I'd really encourage people, like, invest in yourself through continuous learning. And I really mean that. And I wouldn't rely on even your employer or anyone else. And the reason I say that is there's so much free, high quality information out there, and there's more than ever before. And there's world experts in every field sharing free information on a daily basis. So my encouragement, if you're interested in a particular area or trends, like, read and read books. Find, and it doesn't. I'm not saying you have to read a book a week or anything like that, but just read 1 or 2 books a year on a particular topic that that you're interested in. I know there's these things where I've heard Warren Buffett reads 5-6 hours a day, one of the world's most successful investors. Bill Gates reads 50 books a year. I'm not talking about that, but there is something about people who succeed and they progress in their careers that I think they spend time to really invest in themselves. The other thing I do a lot of is I listen to a lot of podcasts, and I prefer that. And I can listen to podcasts when I'm running, if I'm in the gym, if I'm in the car, and it's a way of continuous learning, and it taps into. I'm passionate about coaching, so a lot of them are coaching and well-being related. The other thing is you can follow thought leaders on any, like LinkedIn. There's so much free content on LinkedIn as well, and it's really high quality content. There could be YouTube. I use a lot. I don't use Instagram for that as much, but I know there's really good information that's shared on Instagram as well. And then the other thing you can do is kind of, maybe connected to your role, is attend conferences, seminars. You might be able to speak at one. There might be a training course internally in your firm, or you could be sponsored by your firm to do a course externally. So I know in my previous role, people would have done courses in UCD and the part-time courses as well that were offered. On the point on AI, I'm not an AI expert at all, but I do know some people who work in AI, and I think it's going to fundamentally change everything in how we work. And one thing I've heard, and I've heard over and over, is that we're only scratching the surface of what AI and how it's going to change things. So maybe there's just 2 things that share there. One is if you haven't used it, just becoming comfortable with some of the AI tools like ChatGPT or Grok. And the second thing is, if AI is, say you work in law or in the legal sector, there are specific AI tools that are being developed that will significantly enhance productivity in those sectors. So I'd say just get curious about them. And in my own experience, like 6 months ago, I would have been skeptical about ChatGPT. Now I've become quite skilled in using it, and I use it every day. And it's a key part of how I'm working. There's a friend of mine that's founded a law firm in the last 3 months, and that law firm is going to leverage every AI technology possible. And it's a specialist law firm focused on commercial litigation, but their model is completely different. They'll have no trainees, which is that's very, very innovative. And it shows how things, kind of how operating models are going to change as well. I'm not saying that's going to be the benchmark for anyone else, but that's someone who I know personally who's gone and founded this business. And I went to his launch event recently and I met the team, and they're working, getting through more work faster with fewer people. And that's through leveraging AI. So I'd say we're at the tip of the iceberg with AI, and just get familiar and curious about it.
Fantastic. Thanks very much, Brian. I love your advice on reading as well, and listening to podcasts. So again, some fantastic practical tips. Thanks very much, Brian. And in relation to AI, I think it's ever changing as well. So just keeping up to date with AI. I think it's really good advice as well. Moving to Kate.
Yeah, sure. So to echo again what Brian said, well, I myself don't really have much time to read books, unfortunately. I've got 2 small kids and a busy job at the same time, but I do listen to podcasts and even audiobooks, things like that when I'm in the car. One of my leaders actually in Amazon had set as a task at one point to read a book. We actually all got together. It was like a book club, but it was like a thought leadership book. And we actually then spoke about it in our next team meeting, which was great. So it is a good way of, and I suppose we all dissected it differently, but we all learned from it as well. I also attend industry conferences. I attended the Talent Summit in the RDS last month, and again there was lots of conversations about AI and things like that, and the ever-changing culture. I also I follow people on LinkedIn and read lots of articles and publications. And I suppose the industry that I'm in, we do need to keep on top of AI. And I think people, like Brian said, were a bit skeptical maybe 6 months ago to a year ago, but we have to evolve. Change is good. And this is the way that everything is going. So as a recruiter, seeing CVs come through that have been generated by ChatGPT every day, it is a challenge, but it's something that we just need to work with. And it is, we will be bringing in AI sources to help us as well with screening of CVs. I don't currently use them right now, but one thing that I do use is so for when I'm creating my job ads, I run everything through a gender decoder to make sure that we're reaching out to the correct audience, and that we're not one way, like if we're not too focused on female or male candidates. So we would just want to try and be as diverse as possible. So that is one thing that has really helped me in my role. And yeah, I think AI is a scary tool, but also a very useful tool.
Very interesting, Kate. Thanks very much. Very interesting how you use it on a day-to-day basis as well. I love your advice on audiobooks if you haven't got time to actually read the hard copy, and attending conferences as well, as Brian mentioned as well, and also following organizations and company and leaders in the fields on LinkedIn perhaps as well. Thanks very much. And Catherine, likewise.
Just checking, you can hear me okay now?
Yes,
All good?
indeed,
Okay.
we can. We can hear you perfectly, Catherine. Thank you.
Lovely, lovely. I won't repeat what Kate and Brian have said because I agree with all of that. I think the only things I'd add in terms of how I sort of stay up to date, it's finding your people. And I think I have met some amazing groups in the sales and marketing community within London, mostly through going to a conference and finding the right person to talk to, who talks to the right person, and then ending up on these fabulous WhatsApp groups where there's, sort of CMOs or leaders of sales, and they're essentially sharing tools, tips, insight from each of their respective organizations, and also kind of saying what conferences they're going to be going to. So next thing, I know basically where I can go, where I've got a sort of ready set made a group of colleagues. So I found that a really good way of sort of staying up to date, and also it's fun. And I'm also very time poor, so I haven't as much time to be reading books, but agree with all the other channels as well. I think with AI, really interesting, really interesting. Absolutely trying to embrace it in work. And I sort of encourage, obviously, if you're in an environment where they have training, to just lap it up. It is moving really fast, as Leona said, so it's actually hard to make sure you are sort of at the forefront of the tools. The versions are coming out so quickly now. So I think it's a mixture of what you can get in terms of on-the-job training in your company. Also, to the point Brian made, I think around specific platforms you might use in your day-to-day job, they're all looking at AI solutions within their platforms, and they generally do quite good training around that as well. So having a look at those, and then just again to the point I think we all made around having a play with it, really. So every single day now, I'll be using it to either review or draft content, tidy up my emails, tell me what's important within my emails. Doesn't always get it right because it is still evolving. So obviously having that sense check is super important. But they're generally the things that I would look out for with AI. My boss made a really good comment yesterday. Actually, she said that she now uses chat. We call it chat PwC, it's chat GPT. We've got an enterprise license with them, but she uses that almost like a team member. So every single kind of project we're working on or meeting we're in, we will invite said team member. Almost think of it like that. How can they support us? How can they help us? And it does really get you thinking, why am I doing this task? I should be looking to see if it can be done more efficiently through AI. So yeah, there's lots and lots happening. It's a very exciting space.
Very exciting. Thanks very much, Catherine, and very interesting the way that you use it within PwC as well. Thank you. So in regard to, I suppose we're coming near to the end of our conversation. Just if you can think perhaps maybe of one piece of advice that you would have for our audience today, what would that be? I might start with Kate.
Sure. Yeah. I would just say own your career. Like be proactive in your career development and seek out that mentorship, take on challenging projects, and always be willing to learn. Networking is essential, basically, to grow your career. And also, I think the biggest thing is just you decide what you want. Not everybody has to be a leader. Like, I think people think it's the natural progression. It's not. Not everybody wants to be a leader. It depends on your own strengths and interests and your own expertise. So have a really big think about what it is you actually want in your career. I went down the leadership route. I saw an opportunity, took it, and I absolutely loved it. I then decided to take a break for a little while. So I actually took voluntary redundancy from Amazon, and I took a break and I hung out with my kids for a while, decided what it was that I actually really wanted. I came into AIB as a recruiter, as an individual contributor, and then an opportunity arose where my manager moved on, and I thought, you know what, let's go again. And I'm loving it, and it is definitely, it kind of cemented that is actually the route that I wanted. But it's okay to take a step back and think about it as well. And yeah, you own your career, basically.
You own your career. I love that, Kate. Thank you very much. And Catherine, one piece of advice for our audience today.
I love that, Kate. There's a real balance, isn't there, between like having a really clear idea of where you want to go and then also being open to change, challenge, flexibility. Because that was pretty much what I would say in this respect. Is I call it like almost your North Star. So you know where you sort of, again, what gives you energy, where do you want to go? That's your North Star. So how do you build towards it? But to Kate's point, absolutely being flexible as things in your life change, or new things become available, new career paths become available, new countries to travel to, all the rest of it, keeping an open mind, and absolutely having that person who's got your back, who is either a mentor, a friend, a sibling, a partner, whoever it is, that's going to go, what are you doing and now, and are you enjoying it, and what can we look to do to get you to where you need to be?
Lovely, Catherine. Thank you very much. And finally, Brian.
Yeah, thanks. Great answers. And I'd echo those as well. And what I'd say is kind of to answer it kind of in three parts and related to my own experience. But I think the first thing I'd say is take calculated risks in your career. And I think certainly as I'm progressing through my career, maybe it's the chances I didn't take that I might regret. So if an opportunity arises, maybe I'd say take it. And I'm not necessarily talking about, to echo what Kate said, it mightn't be an opportunity for a leadership role. It could be an opportunity to take time out, but trust yourself that you trust yourself and your instinct. And even when the path ahead isn't fully clear, trust your inner voice as well. So that's the first thing, taking calculated risks. The second part is, and I've kind of alluded to this before already, which is enjoy the journey as well. So work is important, but life is more important. And finding the healthy balance between working and enjoying yourself. So when I finished with Eisen Ramper last year, I took 6 weeks out and I walked the Camino de Santiago. And that for me was it was an amazing experience. And actually, in a way, it set me up to build my business because it was a total reset. It was a nice way of closing one chapter. And just before I opened another chapter, I was taking time out to kind of reflect and re-energize. And I think if we create more space in our life to look after ourselves, sleeping well, eating well, spending time with people we love, doing fun things, we're in a better position to thrive in our career. So that's the second thing, enjoy the journey. And the final point I'd make is we all go through periods in our career where we're a little lost. And there's one question I think that's always very helpful, which is to ask ourselves in those times, which is what is the next right move? And it's just thinking of the next, as opposed to where we want to be in a year or 2 years, just what's the next right move and act on that. And then when you do that, act on the next right move. And it's a way of keeping moving forward as well, in our careers as well, even when we don't have all the answers.
Fantastic, Brian. Thank you very much. That fantastic insight there. And again, practical tips and advice as well. That we may not always have the answer to just what is that next step that we want to make. Very good. And kind of understanding that self-awareness. Thank you so much for a wonderful insight. And just before we go, I know Birgit has asked our audience in advance if they had any questions that they would like to ask the panel. So one or two questions did actually come in. I suppose one was in relation to what's the best approach to job search rather, and to improve your CV. So what's the best approach to job search, and any advice on improving your CV? Kate might be the best person, maybe to start anyway, to answer that question. Kate,
Of course, yeah,
Thank
yeah. So I suppose the job search itself, there's so many different avenues that you could take. The one that I would encourage everybody to do is to have a LinkedIn account and update it regularly. That's where recruiters are always going to be looking for their next hire. And also, I suppose, reach out, grow your network across LinkedIn, but also you can set up job alerts. If you can put in keywords, if the role isn't open right now, you will be alerted as soon as it is. And then your CV, try and keep it to 1 to 2 pages, not too long, and make sure and include any transferable skills that are there, and I suppose design it for that role that you're applying to. Hiring managers write their job specs, basically they put the answers in there for you. So try and design it around what they're looking for. Ensure you put in everything, have a professional summary at the beginning, just to outline like a high level view of what your career has been to date. Ensure and put in any professional experience, any certificates and memberships of any professional development. And then I suppose highlight your education. And recruiters do like to see the hobbies and interests. It's not a mandatory thing, but it is also a nice thing. And you can, again, see transferable skills there. Like, for example, if you're looking for something that has a high level of customer service, you may have worked in a bar for a year that you were in college. That is a transferable skill. So do ensure to bring it all in. I've been on interview panels recently where people just talk about their current role and what they can bring to the next role. But all of the experience that you can bring into that interview, please do, because it will make you stand out from the crowd.
It's really good advice, Kate. Thank you so much. And that tailoring piece for the individual job description, looking at the duties, responsibilities, the skills, the information's in that job description, and transferring it and highlighting it and showing impact on your CV and your cover letter as well. Really good advice. Thank you very much. Catherine, do you have anything to add to that?
Not really. I mean, the only thing I'd add is when you sort of moving to a new country, I find it quite useful to also try and contact the recruiters that are operating in that area, that field. So going through the kind of either your network or the recruiter websites themselves to find out who is it that actually specializes in that area within that industry, and then trying to have a coffee, as many coffees as possible. Even if you're just getting a download of what's happening in the market and how to position yourself, I think it's still worthwhile.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Catherine. Thank you. And Brian, any advice in relation to kind of job search, or either domestically or internationally, or the CV? Anything? Any advice there?
I think actually one thing is I often say to people is go and meet people. So use your personal network. So if you're looking for a new role, seek out people who might have experience. And I often think if people go and ask for a job, they'll get advice. If they ask for advice, they'll get a job. So I think approaching people and just telling them where you are, what you're thinking about, often leads to a fruitful conversation. And 2 other quick points I'd make. One is on CVs. It's only a small thing, but having reviewed a lot of CVs in the past, just to make sure there's no typos in your CV, because first impressions count. And I think it's just something, if there's typos in a CV, it gets people off. It's not a great start, I think. So just first impression count. And then the final point is just when interviewing and preparing for interviews, even do a mock interview with a kind of a friend or someone. A pal of mine was actually interviewing for a role recently, the week before last, and he called into me for an hour, and we actually just role played a little bit of the interview. But it means that actually when you go into the actual interview itself, you've done a little bit of rehearsal for it, so you'll be a little bit more relaxed in the interview itself as well.
Wonderful. Thanks very much, Brian. Fantastic advice there as well. So there was actually another question that came in relation to moving to another country. Any advice on that? I know some of you had experience in working abroad. Any advice in relation to, I know, Catherine, you mentioned they're reaching out to individual recruiters there in a country. Any other advice there on moving to another country for a career?
Leona, I just have a question here as well in
Okay.
our Q&A related to that.
Great.
Maybe we can combine that a little bit. So someone, manager soon to be associate director, wants to come back to Ireland, return here and ask how to start a job search for a position that would be in line with the continuing career progression, but also that current company has a few jobs in Ireland at this time, but has no sponsorship or visa. So it's a bit the other way around as well, that we may want to look at answering that question to combine both.
Okay, perfect. Catherine, are you able to add a little bit more?
Yeah, I mean, hopefully I'll answer a couple of the
Thank you.
points there, but I think in general, companies' sponsorship programs differ wildly, really, and different countries obviously have different sort of requirements for companies to sponsor. So obviously getting yourself well researched in what that looks like, and then what companies in the country you're looking to move to are likely to be offering that type of sponsorship. There's also a bit of a slow game here, where if you look at large international companies that do support international transfers, that could be a way in your current country to then sort of look at exploring in a safe environment where, you know, so you're obviously quite familiar with the company options abroad. So that's kind of what I'd say about that. I mean, again, it goes back to network as well, though. Like, do you know anyone on ground in these countries? Can you do a quick phone call? Even looking at LinkedIn within your network, are there people based in wherever it is that maybe are in your industry? People are surprisingly happy to take calls. I find if you give context in your message and you really are openly asking for advice, I find you might get a 15-minute call that would then open up a network in that country, and you can have more discussions and get some more insight that way. That's what I would suggest.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Catherine. I don't know if Kate or Brian would have anything to add to that. I know we're running very close to 2 o'clock. Birgit, I'm watching the time there. Brian, Kate?
No, I'm fine. I just say kind of looking to countries where there's sponsorship, you know, the US, Canada, Australia, Dubai, looking at internal transfers with global, you know, multinationals as well, and talking to recruiters. I think it's echoing all of Kat's points. Yeah.
Thank you very
Same.
much.
There's also
Same.
immigration specialists as well that can help. So perhaps if you have a look on LinkedIn, you could reach out to them and they might be able to provide some help.
Fantastic practical advice there. Thank you very much, Kate. I want to just thank you all so much for taking the time for chatting with us today. To Brian, to Catherine, to Kate, thank you all very much for your honest insight. I'm going to pass you over to Birgit, and who will close today's panel. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much, Leona, and for leading us through this very engaging discussion. It was really great and full of insights, and quite a lot of the things I would have wished to know in my very early 20s as well. It was very helpful. And thank you so much for Brian, Kate, and Kat to speak so open and sharing your stories and advice. I find it very good, and I'm sure I was not the only one going out with fresh inspiration from that. And to everyone who joined us, I'd like to say thank you to you as well. And do join us for part 2 of this series on May 15th. If you haven't already signed up, I will put the link into the chat, and you can have a look there. It will be on making career moves, so we'll delve into a little bit of a different direction. And yeah, for now, I wish you all very best and have a great afternoon. Thank you very much.